is the Next Level Loan Officers podcast. To learn more about Next Level Loan Officers, go to becomnl.com.
Hey, this is Frazier with Lead Pops and Next Level, and I'm proud to present this episode of the Next Level Loan Officers podcast. Lead Pops is the industry's only future-proof growth solution. You can check us out at leadpops.com.
Well, welcome back to another podcast here by the Next Level Loan Officers. Kellen Vaughn, coach and founder here. Very excited for this episode. Not often we get a really just iconic rock star of the mortgage industry to join us in the studio. But man, today is going to be a great episode. So if you're a loan officer and you're listening to this and you're tuned in, whether you're in your car or at your office, man, get a piece of paper out, get a pencil. There's going to be some notes that you're going to want to take today because we are speaking with Linda Davidson today from Fairway. And listen, just in the conversations we've had prior to this podcast, I've got my notes ready, and I think this is going to be really powerful. So, Linda, welcome to the Next Level Loan Officers podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's so much fun. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm super excited that you're here today. You're a fellow Texan, which is always great to have on the podcast. So excited about that. But really, more importantly, just as you and I have kind of gotten to know each other, I'm learning about really some of the processes and some of the things that you've put in place in your own business that are, I think, what loan officers need to hear today. Like, this is real stuff. It's a challenging market. It's a changing market, but you've built some things that I believe are almost, they almost stand the test of time, right? Regardless of the market, regardless of what's going on. And I want you to kind of just give a little bit of that to our loan officer audience. Now, I know you promised me a great story when we were off the air. So I'm excited to hear this as well.
All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate it, Kellen. So 3 quick things. So first thing, when I first started in the business, I was told 3 things. I was told to have system and processes, and my brain always goes with that anyway. I came from a background from retail, and I wrote all the operation and procedure manuals for the company and ran their operations department. So my brain goes systems. I don't really know how to do it any different. I'm sure maybe there is a better way, but I don't know how to do it other than systems. So we made sure that we put systems in place so that every single time they were non-negotiable daily disciplines that were in place every single day, because systems don't have a bad day, right? Systems, they're consistent, they're one-timing, everyone knows what everyone else is going to say. Everyone knows the same thing that's going out. So I guess we did a lot of CRM before there were CRMs, right?
Yeah.
So, but systems they really don't have a bad day. So definitely, it's important to have those systems in place. And as you continue and grow your business, definitely embrace technology. As we had today, when I started 26 years ago, there really wasn't that. So we just had to develop ourselves. And then the second thing that I was told in doing this business is you must be better than the underwriter. So, when I first started in the business, I worked for a small broker shop. And I had 2 underwriters that we brokered majority of our loans to. And the cool part is one of the underwriters is actually one of my underwriters today. So it's so cool. In order to be better than the underwriter, every time that I did a loan, I would call them and say, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Coach me. And so that's really how I learned, because there wasn't a lot of resources at that point. You had the MRI books, which we were great for, but there wasn't a lot of resources that you could go to quickly. So we made sure that we were better than the underwriter. We never turned a loan in unless we've done the research and and packaged it well up front. One of our taglines is, we don't close late or ugly. And so in order to make sure you don't close late or ugly, you have to make sure that you are better than the underwriter. If there's anything in that file that just puts that little gut thing in your gut that says, not sure about that one, do the work up front, get it done up front, research it up front, have it all ready. And that way you don't have to worry about it. That's the cool part of this business. There is enough stress in this business without you causing your own stress. Do the work up front before you're under the spotlight, you're under the gun. And then at the end, then you just do the happy dance when you get the clear to close, right? So it's just not, it's just, I don't understand loan officers who throw it in and hope it sticks or hope it happens, because then your business is going to do this a lot because you're stressing over what you got to do in order to make that loan close. But now you're under the gun and everybody knows that there's a problem. Let's do it up front.
We call that the loan officer roller coaster, right? And it's not a fun ride.
It's not. No. And it's so stressful too. This business is stressful enough. Don't bring that on yourself. Be better than the underwriter up front. Know your thing. You know, when I first started in the business, and I love to argue, so that's just part of my nature. And so I actually got my DE underwriting. I can't use it, obviously, because I originate, but I got my DE underwriter, and I did it only designation, and I did it only in order so I could argue. Because no underwriter was going to tell me, hey, the guidelines say, because I'm going to tell you what the guidelines say. Right. And we put that in our notes that say, this is the guidelines. This is why we did it this way. This is the way we're packaging it. And we go right through. And we do that because we don't want the stress level, but we also take pride to make sure that we don't close that later ugly. And if we commit to a loan, we've committed to a loan. That's what we're going to do.
Well, I love that, Linda. And let me ask you something. This is a little bit off the cuff, because we actually had this conversation in our Next Level community group this week. It was, and I'd love your take on this, right? So how do you balance that, right? How do you balance the making sure that everything is going to work so there aren't any surprises against the speed at which your realtor partners want that pre-qualification back in their hands, right?
Yeah. So there's enough people that will do business your way. And so the scripting that I say to them, I know that you know that I am committed to make sure that when you go out and show them that home, they're 100% qualified, approved. And in addition to that, we also, and this is how we script it to our clients, if you'll go ahead and send me your documentation, then we'll go ahead and pre-underwrite it up front. And then what we're going to do is do a pre-approval consultation. So we used to do it face-to-face. We do most of them by Zoom now. And we actually get our clients in front of them. We run numbers. We look at debt to income. We talk about the products that we suggest for them that's the best financing options for them. So they are armed, and this is how we script it to them and our agents. They are armed with that information, so that they are 100% confident in what they're doing when they go out. They know what out-of-pockets are going to be. They know what monthly payments are going to be. And so therefore, they are a much qualified buyer. In addition to that, and again, I'm scripting to you or to, to the client or to the agent. In addition to that, once they have found a home, we're going to call that listing agent. We're going to let them know not only are they pre-qualified, they're pre-underwritten. We have underwritten that loan. We are good to go. And therefore, you are going to be able to be very confident that we can close this loan quickly. Is that okay with you? And that's how we script it. So it's a buy-in from that client. It's a buy-in from that agent. It's a buy-in from that listing agent who now knows that we have done everything in our due diligence up front. And all of our templates that we send out, because again, I'm a big believer in one touch. So our emails say the same thing. We want you to be confident. We want to, what sets us apart from our competitors. These kind of scriptings that we say up front, we say it over and over and over again. So number one, they feel very special because they know that we're going to take good care of them. And number two, if they send that homework in to us, they know that they're going to get that pre-approval consultation, and they know that they're going to be armed with that information that they need to feel confident going out looking for that perfect home for them.
I love that. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. It's tough right now, right? And I think, if we're being honest, it's a challenge for a lot of loan officers right now. And so I think they get a lead. they get excited. They want that thing to materialize into a closed loan. And I think to your point, they skip some of these important steps early on.
Yes.
And what they do is they find themselves in hot water 15 to 20 days later.
Yes. And nobody wins at that point. The buyer doesn't win. The seller doesn't win. The agents doesn't win. Nobody wins. And the stress level is so high when you're trying to do something like that. I mean, you just can't. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you do it?
Yeah, don't put yourself in that position. That's great advice. Well, I appreciate that. So I want to shift gears for just a second, because as we kind of teased at the beginning, you've really built an amazing system, right? Where, and correct my numbers, but in my notes, that 75% of your deals come from past clients. Is that?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
I'm in a different stage of my life, almost 27 years in the business. And so we have done a phenomenal job in staying in touch with our past clients. And so that's been a huge part. So we'll tell you my quick nail story. So I was about 2 years in the business, and I walked into a nail place to do my nails because, it's important to a woman.
Sure.
And I had my t-shirt or shirt on that had my logo for my company. And the lady said, "Oh my goodness, you work at, the company." And I said, "I do." I said, she said, "Well, I closed my loan with your company." And I said, "That's fantastic. Who did you close with?" And she said, "Chris Butcher." And I said, "Oh my gosh." She's like, "She was phenomenal." And I said, "Yes, she is." And I said, I know that I hear from her all the time. This is what this lady's telling me. Hear from her all the time. And she stays in touch with me and that kind of thing. And I said, "Great. So who was your realtor?" And she said, "Oh my goodness, what was her name? Oh my gosh, she was great, but I can't remember her name." And so the question I asked her immediately, I said, "How often did you hear from her after you closed?" And she's like, "I don't think I've ever heard from her since then."
Oh, wow.
And it was such a BFO, blinding flash of the obvious. She said on both situations, they did such a great job, but she couldn't remember the name of the realtor because the realtor has never reached out to her since that time. I knew Chris Butch's system because she helped me. She just recently passed away, so I'm just grateful for her. But she taught me how to do systems to stay in touch. And so I knew that system already because I had worked with her. And so it was just a blinding because, I was kind of, when I first started the first couple of years, you're a little cocky and you think, "Oh, if I do a great job, they're just going to stay in touch with me.
Right.
Anyway, going to come right back to me."
Who would forget you, right?
Forget us, right? She could not remember. And she spent more time with that agent than she did with the loan.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because she's driving her around, showing how and she couldn't remember her name. And so it was one of those BFO moments, that blinding flash of the obvious, that I went home and I wrote out a whole outline. I spent the entire weekend writing out a whole outline of what I wanted to do to stay in touch with our clients. And so, again, this is back in the time before really there were CRMs that are available today and that kind of thing. So, but don't always rely, though. This is one of the things. CRMs are wonderful in that automation is wonderful, but don't rely 100% on that. So when you're talking to your clients and yes, merit hand in hand. That's so important because the automatic touch points in the home box and the all the things that you do are so important that you have that, but also use that for just another reason to touch base with the clients and reach out to them and talk to them. Actually, Todd Duncan says you can't have a relationship. You can't have a long-standing relationship with someone unless you have a relationship with them. So, you've got to be able to touch point with them. How are the kids? What's going on? That kind of thing. And therefore that business is just, it just comes in. The cool part is you may be in the business where it's important that you go and talk to your realtors and meet with new realtors, and that's very important as you continue to grow your business, right? It's hugely important. But the residual part of this business can be your database, and that is literally just residual. Think about it like an insurance company. Or an insurance agent. That's his residual business. It's just that residual coming in every single year of renewals and that kind of thing. In the mortgage business, your residual business is staying in touch with your past clients so they come right back. Just in the yesterday, two of mine, hey, Linda found another home. What do I need to do? There was no conversation other than what do I need to do? And so we did the things we need to do, sent the letter out, and we're done, right? So and we got contracts in. So it's because you've stayed in touch with them. So it's never too late to start this. And if you haven't stayed in touch with your past clients, then apologize to them and then make it consistent. What's the discipline? What does the action need to look like? Lay it out. Make sure it's non-negotiable with you and your team, and you utilize and go hand in hand with automation versus personal touch. And your business, you will always have that residual business.
That's a phenomenal piece of advice. And I think, I'm sitting here and you kind of said it, that you've been in the business for 26 years. So that database is going to be pretty solid, right? But I think if you're an LO, and whether you have 10 clients or whether you have 1,000 clients, the methodology is the same, right? The principles are the same. We want to make sure that we're capturing as much business from that database as possible. Yeah. And I've had new loan officers that have come along too and said, hey, I don't have a past database. What do I do? And I've said, hey, listen, find somebody in your office who doesn't want to do it and go work it for them,
or start with your sphere of influence and then start staying in touch with them, sign them up for the database and then continue to grow that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So would you pull the curtain back a little bit and just share maybe a couple of the things that you do as part of your kind of campaign to just stay in touch?
So I mentioned HomeBot. We love HomeBot. And the cool part about HomeBot, and shout out to Grant and all my friends over there, but I didn't get paid for that. But the wonderful things is the open rate on that is amazing. I think one of the best ideas out there, right? So we use that, and then we touch base with them afterwards. So a lot of times they'll click on something, and as soon as they click, you get an email. So you just pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw you clicked. Or we have templates made, so immediately we send something out. Would you guys like to talk the next couple of days? It sounds like you may be looking at something. Would you like to chat? Just so we can go ahead and schedule that time. We also enter mortgage reviews and those conversations. How are we doing? How are you guys doing? What's going on? Are you guys looking? You're thinking, what's change happened in your family? I mean, you don't have to say, gosh, this is annual mortgage review and you got 5 minutes with me and I just need to make sure you have the right mortgage. It's like, what is changing? There's questions. You're always going to have questions. So all things financial right with them. They may just have a question about their insurance. They may have a question of, hey, Lynn, can I run this by you with my taxes? I've got a question there. Always, say I'm not a tax accountant, but this is what I would suggest, just from the financial side. So there's always so many questions. And then we now do a lot within our team. I personally don't do them, but I have a team that does reverse mortgages and is reminding that as our clients age, then reverses now come into that conversation. And so what a blessing to be able to offer them everywhere from, we call it Fairway Forever, right? And just that's kind of our tagline in our team.
Sure.
But whether it's first time home buyer, reverse mortgages, and all in between, it's that staying in touch with them. So it's birthdays, it's anniversaries, it's the annual mortgage review, the HomeBot, the private Facebook pages, those type of things where you give away little gifts. For Reggie Green is a friend of mine, and he wrote this great book about some of the things that he does and stays in touch with his past clients. And he does a giveaway once a month, just on his private Facebook page, so people come to it, right? So it's just making them people want to come to your page. And so again, marrying technology with relationship. What a great time, because we didn't have that years ago. So it was 100% relationship. So I love and be able to embrace both of them. It's definitely a time saver to be able to embrace both.
Well, and I'll tell you too, it's this market in particular is challenging, right? Where we have, I think at least personally, we have borrowers probably shopping us at a higher rate, right? I know that the loan officers that we talk to, that's one of their big concerns, because when rates are at 7%, borrowers feel like they need to shop around. They didn't necessarily have that same feeling when we were at 2.99. They're like, okay, that's a good number.
That's
We'll roll. But at 7%, they're shopping. And so building that relationship, I think in today's market with a new buyer that's unknown to you, you've got to really work to overcome, and you've got to build that relationship quick and early on in the process. But what you're talking about with the past database, people that have worked with you before, you're starting at step 4, right?
You're way ahead of the game.
Yeah, you're not on you don't have first date jitters, right? You're well beyond that at that point. So
well, and it's also, my grandma told me to call, my mom told me to call. So even with those who maybe they're not a past client, but they're a past client referral, then again, you're already step 2 and 3.
Sure.
So because you're just the trust factor is there, and that's what the cool part is. Or my friend, the guy that I work with, whatever it is, that relationship. I know a guy, right? I know a girl. I know a lady that mortgage lady that will take great care of you. That's what you want. That's when you're staying in touch with them, you're buying a brain cell. My friend, my friend David just always said, you're buying a brain cell, and you are. You're just staying in touch with them, so they know, even though you did a great job, they remember you.
That's right. That's right. That's great. This is not something that we talk about a lot in this market, right? This was a big conversation 2 years ago when, rates were, 3 years ago at this point, but rates were dropping and this was big, but that market's going to come back, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And now it's too late once it's already started. You can't fast forward the relationship. But if you start today and you just put simple things in place, I'm looking at this. Obviously, HomeBot has a cost to it, but it's not outrageous.
It's not outrageous.
But calling for annual mortgage reviews, creating a private Facebook page for your client, educating them on reverse mortgages, and just those are all free, right? Those are free things that just require some time to go out and execute. So that's what I love about this. Now, there's obviously things that we can jazz this up and spend a little more money on technology if we want, but I think everybody's probably got a decent CRM. And again, if you're sitting here going, well, man, I love what Linda's saying, but I just don't have that database. Just go build it. I'll tell you, to your point, Linda, friends, family, start there. Right. Other loan officers that don't want to work it, use theirs.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you the other one is, and I've had great success with this, is a lot of my referral partners, they have spreadsheets full of Zillow leads that they never did anything with, or their past clients, right? Go build your own from scratch and just work them and nurture them as if they were your client, and you can build that same level of trust in that same relationship.
So I'll give you one more tip before we leave. So what if you met with all your realtors individually? It's a great time, again, touch base, right? Or whether you do it by Zoom or whether you meet them face to face, and you say, let me teach you how to do an annual real estate review with all your agents. With all your clients. So you're telling your agents and you're scripting with them. So now you're bringing value to them. And in turn, they bring value to you because they're referring that client back. Because realtors are this with as lenders. They don't know what to say, right? They don't know, like, hey, buying a house still or whatever, right?
Sure.
So it's just a annual real estate review. Right. And then that way you're touching base you're teaching your agents how to touch base, and then it comes back to you.
Wow. I love that. Well, Linda,
that's Duncan point. So, but
perfect.
I love it.
We'll give credit there. Well, thank you so much. Listen, this was awesome. And I hope that the loan officers that are listening to this, I took a whole page of notes here just as we were talking. This is phenomenal stuff. This is not the super sexy stuff that we talk about a lot, right, Linda? This is the stuff that when we talk a lot about in Next Level, consistency will win every day. And if you're consistent in these actions, you can really create a snowball effect of generating a significant amount of your business from referrals. I mean, if you guys heard me say Linda getting 75% of her business directly from her past database, which means she wakes up in the morning and 3/4 of her month is already done and on its way. So that's a great place to be in. And that creates a very consistent, very reliable business. So Linda, first and foremost, I know you do a ton for the mortgage industry and you're always willing to give and educate and teach. So on behalf of Next Level, thank you so much for your wisdom and counsel during these times that are a little shaky for everybody. We appreciate you very much. Thank you for being a guest on our podcast. We appreciate you. And if you're listening to this and you're not a member of the Next Level community, then come check us out over at becomenl.com. Again, becomenl.com, and come hang out and rub elbows with some other cool loan officers. And heck, you may even catch Linda in there every once in a while. So thanks again, Linda. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.